Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Noctiluca, the official podcast of the Blue Lava Healing Network. You can find an invite to the Blue Lava Healing Network on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google. We're pretty much all over the place, and there's tons of features on our network for practitioners, clients, and friends. Today, in this episode, we have Shadi with us, and yeah, I was really interested in being able to meet her just because I like to be able to meet Reiki practitioners that have depth to them. Um, it's not just the surface level, let's talk about basic chakra information kind of stuff. Um, I appreciate being able to talk to somebody with a little bit of depth. You want to introduce yourself, Shadi?
Sure, thank you. Great to be here this morning. So we're in Sydney time, so it's 8 a.m. here. Um, my name is Shadi. I'm from Balance is Key. That's the name of my company and business. And so I am a Reiki master, practitioner, and teacher. I also do meditations. I'm a meditation facilitator. And I basically work with, clients all around the world to help them reconnect with their higher self, clear their energy centers, which I think is the most important, and just start living their life from a place of love and removing their fear either from past or future, and just feeling really centered and able to deal with anything that comes up.
What would you
Hmm.
say your mission of your practice is?
Um, that's a great question because we had a full moon get together on a Saturday night, and we were talking about our overall goals and dreams, and our passions and what we're going to bring into the world. And I guess for me, living and breathing Reiki, it's not just something that I do, but I'm truly trying to live the essence of the energy. And I would just love to be able to bring that to everybody in the world and show them how they can live from a place of peace and connectedness and be able to achieve everything they want to. Um, and it's not difficult. It's just from a simple place of being able to let go of a lot of our attachments, let go of our fears, or just sit with them and feel supported to be able to move forward and live the life they want to. And I'm super passionate about the scientific aspects of Reiki. So I've always been a very logical minded person. I have an IT background. So for me, trying to take the woo woo a little bit out of energy healing and Reiki and understanding what it does scientifically to the physical body, and connecting it with medicine. I'd love to see Reiki in every hospital. I'd love to see all the nurses trained up in Reiki, both for themselves and for their patients. So you'll see in my messages, even on my Instagram or my website, I have a whole section dedicated to research studies that have been done on Reiki. And I have a mix of both. So it's about connecting with your higher self and your spiritual and your soul. And oh, by the way, this is what Reiki actually does to your physical body in a session, or what's been proven of how it works. So getting that message out there, I'd say.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that the physiological processes of your body have biomagnetic fields attached to them, and
Yeah.
that can be read. We have equipment that can read those fields now. Um, and
Yeah.
so, being able to detect what's actually happening to the body during a healing session isn't as complex as it was in the past. Um, and
Yeah.
that's part of the age of the Great Awakening that we're in.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So, and even, I guess one step further to that is just, understanding how when how the energy actually affects our nervous system. how it affects our pain and the pain we're feeling and the stress response and supporting us. And that's why we see so much success with Reiki being worked together as a complementary therapy with other natural medicines, traditional medicines. Like there's a lot of oncology patients and patients in cancer who are using Reiki to help support them with the side effects of their chemo, or giving them that faith and assurances, removing the stress and anxiety from going into procedures. And you can imagine when you don't have the stress hormone running in your body, then your body responds better to the healing that it's being offered, whether it's, the chemo or the medicines you're taking, or allowing the natural body to heal and the cells to, and the immune system to boost. So yeah, it's super fascinating.
What would you say the importance of the energy centers are in terms of the practice?
So I think for me, I use the energy centers as the main part of my Reiki practice. So, so the energy centers we're referring to are the seven chakras, the main chakras, and we know we have, many more minor chakras in our bodies, but our seven main centers, which I'll just give you a very brief rundown for our listeners. So we've got the root chakra, which is at the base, and then it moves up to our sacral chakra, which is around our lower, in our pelvic region. Then we have our solar plexus, which is around our navel, moving up to the heart chakra, which is kind of in the middle of our chest, our throat chakra, and then the third eye, which we know, which is in the middle of our two eyes, and then our crown right up the top. And these are like energy vortexes, and they spin, and they can take in energy from our surroundings and they give out energy. So when a person is balanced, they're kind of spinning all at the same sort of width, and they're flowing beautifully, and it's kind of the energy comes in, energy goes out, and we're all really healthy and balanced and stable. So when we find ourselves getting stressed out and anxiety kicks in, or we've had trauma, whether it's in our childhood or even past lives, to be honest, it affects our auric field, and that's where we're kind of pulling our energy in, and then we take it into our bodies, and we can hold it in these energy centers. And when we're not able to release it, when we don't have our tools to be able to stable it and balance it out, over time, that's when we see physical illnesses happening. And it's always connected, whether it's mental, emotional trauma, and then we've got physical trauma and accidents that can actually affect the chakra areas as well. So our bottom three chakras, so our root, our sacral, and our solar plexus, kind of have to do with our human existence. So our physical needs. So our root chakra being the first one, that gets developed when we're born. And that has to do with our foundations, our connection with our tribe, our families, all the things we need to just survive, food, shelter, water. It's our basic survival instincts. And then we move up to like our sacral, which is in the pelvic area. And then we start developing our one-on-one relationships. What's it look like? So we're, young children, and we have the first friend we have, and how we interact and how we share. And it's also where we have our creativity. We start to explore. We start to, connect with our sexuality. And so that's the second chakra. Then we move up to our third, which is our solar plexus, and that is around the navel area. And that becomes our I center, in the sense that, who am I? So we connect to our willpower, our values, our personality. And that gets developed from like 16 to early 20s. And that's when we really start to question everything. Our parents, we start to rebel more, or who is our tribe? Is what my parents saying? Are their values still good for me? Can I still connect with that? So we start to really question that. And then we start to find what our purpose is and what we want to do. And so we develop our personality here and our relationship with ourselves. And then we move up to, they're the bottom three, and that really is about our physical needs and who we are. Then our heart chakra, which is in the middle, is kind of like the bridge. And so depending on what's going on with the bottom three, that will release emotions, whether it's fear, anxiety, happiness, joy, that will hit our heart center. And our heart center is like our voice. It's like the control panel, and it'll listen to it, and then it will flow it up to the top three as well. And that's where it sends a message off to the brain. And our top three chakras are connected to our higher self, our spiritual self. So it's where we can really listen in to our guides and where we need to be. It's also where inspiration can come from. So going into like our throat is our sense of being able to share our experiences and have a voice in this world. And what does that voice even sound like? And what is it we want to say? And how do we express ourselves? And how do we listen? And so what we find is when we're blocked in the bottom chakras, it affects the rest of the chakras. They're all interrelated. They're all linked together. So if we have an area in our sacral that might be a little bit congested, a little bit blocked, we're having some trouble with, our one-on-one relationships, we're having trouble expressing ourselves or being creative, you will also feel that in the throat chakra. And then we have our third eye, which is how we see the world, and connecting to our intuition, our higher self, our guides, our spiritual self, psychic abilities and all that sort of stuff. But more importantly, do we see the world as a place of harmony and peace, and or do we see it as being a fearful place, a place that's against us and not working with us? Again, that can be connected to our root chakra and our bottom ones if we're feeling like we don't belong. And then our crown chakra, the beautiful crown chakra. We love the crown chakra. And that's connected to our heavenly self and our higher self and our guides and our Reiki masters who are always with us. And that's where our inspiration comes from. So when we're flowing and we're open and we're clear, we get a wonderful inspiration from the crown with this amazing idea that comes out of nowhere, and we're able to turn it into a reality. So we bring it all the way down to the root, and the root's connected to the earth, and then we can physically manifest it. So I find that the first place to start is checking in with the energy centers. And that tells you a lot about what the person is going through, where they store their energy, where they're losing energy, how they lose their power, what anchors they have. And then we go about balancing them. And the thing is with balancing the chakras is a person can come in and in a session, they can feel it, by the time they've gone, they're all open, they're spinning at a kind of even circle each. But they can walk out the door and those same habits, those same behaviors, those same thought patterns could still happen. Something could trigger them and it will come back up to surface. And that is why one Reiki session is not necessarily going to heal years and years and years of trauma or repetitive behavior or pain or anything that they're going through. So I normally give clients tools as well to help them connect with their chakras depending on the areas, and we only pick one or two each week to focus on. And it could range from color therapy to affirmations to meditation, guided meditations, focusing on that area. And just depends on what we find and which ones are really blocked. And you'll see a pattern. So most of the time, if they come back and I see, okay, it's the same area that's still being congested, we go a bit further. And what I love about Reiki, it's like peeling layers. Even if you did nothing, even if you knew nothing about the chakras, even if you knew nothing about any of the energy centers, and all you did was put your hands on, it will do what it needs to do. It will clear, it will go to where it needs to go, and the person will get what they need to get for their highest good.
Now,
So that's kind of how I connect. Yeah.
what does this have to do with heart-mind coherence?
Okay. So what I guess science has found and what they're working on, and heart mind coherence is just a really fancy word to say that basically when or everything we feel in our heart, that's kind of like where it starts. So if you're feeling an emotion like, say, fear, you'll feel it inside your heart. You'll feel the anxiety kicking in your body, and your heart will then send a message to your brain going, okay, guys, she's feeling threatened. So let's get into gear. Let's get the fight and fight response happening. Let's get ready for an attack, or let's get ready to, put our armor on. We're about to go into battle. And so what they found is that if we can get the balance happening between our hearts and our brains and our minds, then we're in balance in our body energetically as well. So it's all just a fancy way of saying that if we can release our fears and therefore release the negative thought patterns, or calm our brain and calm our body back into balance from our nervous system, then we're in a place where we can manifest our goals and really heal either physically, mentally, emotionally, or really be able to be creative and move forward in our dreams and purpose. Did that make sense?
Yeah, and I think important parts to cover with heart-mind coherence are, the fact that the minute we're unbalanced emotionally, our mind goes in the same direction.
Yeah,
And it's important to acknowledge that uh, how powerful our emotions really are in
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
sense, because a lot of people don't kind of put our emotions on the back seat nowadays and say, okay, well, I'm feeling this way, but I have some things I need to take care of, so that needs to hold on for a second. And it's good practice in building strength, for yourself, but that strength needs to be guided. And without that guidance, eventually that strength fades away,
yeah, yeah,
at least for a
eh,
lot of people.
yeah. We've become a little bit of a society that is so afraid to feel. And we've been told that, we have to be happy all the time, or, positive. And, that takes a lot to constantly have to be positive, because things happen that will, make us a little bit more unsettled, or make us a bit shaky. We're human beings and we have a full spectrum of emotions. So we're going to feel threatened or fearful or anxiety or unsafe. We're thrown out of our comfort zone, and we might have to, move, and there's challenges, and nothing is constant or linear. And especially when there's so much uncertainty. So we're going to feel them. And if we can learn not to be afraid, because those feelings are messages, and if we can just sit with it for a moment and kind of go, I wonder if this feeling had words, what would it be telling me? Where is it coming from? Because most of that comes from a fear of something. And so if we can just sit and go, okay, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of, the change that's happening? Am I afraid of failing in this job? Am I afraid of losing my loved one? Am I afraid of not ever finding the perfect person in my life? And then just letting it go and not holding on to that energy. So, okay, I acknowledge it, feel it. I'm just going to let it go, trust. And that's where breath work is so key, into helping you bring you back to balance as well.
Yeah, I was curious what your kind of view was on how this relates to timeline healing.
So with timeline healing, so for all the Reiki practitioners out there, um, there is symbols that we use that we can connect to either past or present um, situations. So if there has been some trauma in our past, or even just some painful experiences or things that we still hold energy onto every single one of those. And so we can actually go back and just sit in that space and send the Reiki to that situation, to that person, place, or thing, and release our attachment to that. So we're healing that that occurrence. And we could do the same for a future event. So if we're in a place where we know we're about to go somewhere, that we're going to do a speech or a meeting, or we're meeting some people, we might be a little bit out of our comfort zone or just uncomfortable, or we just need a little bit extra guidance and support, we can send Reiki to that future event to help support us, to help be there with us, and to help, just give us that strength and knowing that when I go into this place, I'm going with love and I have the support for my highest good, what's happening. So I love the use of Reiki in that space. But forgiveness healing goes a little bit further. So that is when we find once we're able to release, energetically, once we're able to heal emotionally and mentally, that's when we see the physical healing happen. That's when we can see those miracles happen. Um, and part of that is part of the forgiveness healing, forgiveness for ourselves and for anybody else. So one of the methods is to be able to sit down and go through your whole life from when you were a young child and go through just like a movie and come up with in the areas that really stand out to you. And you might think you've already dealt with it. You might think, well, I got picked on when I was like 6 in the school playground, but hey, we were kids and it was silly and I'm over it. But the fact that you still remember it, the fact that it's still like a point in your life that you can recall really clearly, means we're energetically still attached to that. So we can go back to that point, to that little inner child, and we can just give it love, and we could give that situation healing and forgiveness to the other person. And when we release that forgiveness, we kind of hand it over. We go, okay, you know what? I don't want to carry this anymore. I forgive the situation, I forgive the person, and I bless them. We send that person blessings. And when we can send that person blessings, we get it off with the cord is cut, we kind of just totally let go of it. We're coming from a place of total love for that situation. And that has shown such healing benefits for so many people, even myself. There was one practice that one of the other Reiki masters was saying that what they did was they put in from the year they were born, and they put in 1981, 1982. They kind of did it every year, and they went back and they gave Reiki to everything that happened in that year. They kind of they went through 1 year and they did 1 year a day, and they went through and they just kind of healed themselves all the way through. And I thought that was a great idea as well. So yeah, when we can release the energy that we have in those attachments to those situations that caused us pain or grief or suffering of at any level, and healing that the whole wounded inner child thing, then we're not carrying it anymore. So it's like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders, and we're not bringing it forward into our future. We're letting it go, and we can clear and balance and really heal at a really deep level. And karmic healing, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things about being able to heal your timeline is that as soon as you heal something from your past, it lays out a whole new pathway for your future settings. And being able to open the doors and create different shifts for yourself for your future setting is a primary function, I would say, that's a part of the healing process. Um, because we thrive off of learning and creativity and discovery, and we need ways to kind of entertain ourselves and bring ourselves to new ideas and new ways of thinking. Um, so
Yeah,
that to
that's
me
exactly
is
right.
like, yeah, that to me is what's like crucial in that situation. Um, so how do you think, now that we talked a little bit about timeline healing, can you talk to us a little bit about distance healing?
Sure, yeah. So, um, distance healing is being able to just provide um, Reiki energy to anywhere, anybody, anytime, any place, because it's all energy and frequency. So it's just tapping into the frequency and connecting with that person to be able to send the energy, the Reiki energy. So I use the Reiki symbols. And for me, I have two different types of distant healing that I do. One is pretty much like a full treatment, as though you were kind of in my Reiki room, and I can either do it online on like a Zoom program or something, or I just connect with the person and I ask them to have an intention for themselves, usually for their session. And then we do like a bit of a guided meditation to get them to settle the monkey mind. And then I will either get off the devices and just be able to connect with them energetically using the Reiki energy, our symbols. I do use a pendulum, and I also use a like a chakra um, map or flow, a chart for want of a better word. And I can also tap in that way just to touch your base and see what's coming up in terms of what I'm guided to, in terms of what areas may be blockages. And then I can use like a bolster, or I've got like a person with the chakras on it. And I literally will go through similar hand position and touch base and see what I can feel and connect with them, sending the Reiki energy and clearing them for that. And that's normally still about a 45-minute process to do a full body healing. But then and then I'll touch base with them afterwards, and we kind of tell them what I sensed and felt, and they will also have a chat and let me know how they felt and what they sensed going through this. And it's amazing. It works exactly the same as if you were in the room. The other way is to have what I call just an intention healing. So there'll be people that will say, look, I'm about to go into this job. I'm really stressed out. Can you send healing for that specific purpose? So I normally just write the name down, or a person will write it on a piece of paper. They'll write what it is they would like some support with. And I send Reiki for that particular purpose and person. So it's kind of in between my hands. And I send it to that person for that time frame to help support them for a particular reason. So there's a couple of ways to do it. Sometimes a person will want and will work out that it's better if we stay online the whole time, so they feel more connected. That's great as well. They'll have some meditation music going, and I tap in exactly the same way as we normally would. Others may just not even want to touch base. They just want to set up a time. So it'd be like, Monday night, 7:30. Can we touch base? And it might be just a quick text message, get comfortable. Yep, we touch base. And then, especially for regular clients, and then we connect again after. So that's how I tend to do my distant healing practice. And it's amazing and beautiful, because in so many ways, well, for the person, who might be dealing with anxiety or even depression, for them leaving the home might be really traumatic. So they're able to get this healing and this love in the comfort and safety and security of their own home. And sometimes physically they just cannot get there if they're, if they are being treated, with for cancer, or if they're going through some sort of medical physical illness and they, cannot get here, then this is also a great way to be able to tap in and still provide the support and services and love that Reiki can offer for their healing path. And as a practitioner, in some ways, you remove, I guess, any ego, for want of a better word, it's just pure energy. You don't have to worry about any of the setups of the room or anything. You just sit and connect. And so it's a beautiful flow. Yeah. How have you found it to be with your distant healing practice there, Kami?
My distance healing practice is very much so based on interacting with the planet. Um,
Great.
I use the Earth's biofield to connect with people.
Yeah.
And all the time, people say things like, oh, well, there's no proof of a biofield. There's no proof that there's an energy that connects us all together, yet we all breathe the same air. Um,
Yeah.
so it's one of those things that, is being discovered by science, and we're just in a new era where things are needing to be discovered and proven by science first before we can continue to move forward with them, which is good, so that we're sure that we know what we're talking about. But um, in terms of working like energetically with the biofield, I think there's a lot of different various aspects you have that come into play um, during a session, especially with when it comes to elemental healing.
Yeah.
Um, because different positions on the grid or um, different types of energy flowing through the grid at different points have a different effect on people. And I think that it's important to be aware, at least somewhat, of elements in what you're working with, the five elements. Um, but it's not something that is going to rule over the situation. I think when you're working with Reiki energy specifically, you're able to transcend. It's similar to transcendental meditation, I would say, when you're working with distance healing. Um, because you're pulling in energy from, not only the physical energetic realm, but from the spiritual realm as well. And when you're pulling that in and bringing it into the planet, it has an effect on the planet. The energy is intelligent, so the earth knows when, oh, this person's receiving a healing session. And, the energy is intelligent and is aware in that sense. Um, so I think as we continue to grow in our awareness of things that are, claimed to just be spiritual beliefs, um, we'll be able to progress. We'll be able to progress in a way that is truly helpful towards people just by being able to break down the simple processes of what happens during a healing session. And we have so much evidence towards this hands-on approach, um, but I'd love to see more evidence towards hands-off, because especially now in the time of Corona and everything going on, um, people want to be in their own space and don't want to risk getting sick by going out and seeing somebody. So I think it's important that we start to acknowledge the benefits of hands off as well.
Yeah. Yep,
But
absolutely. So there was actually a research study done in Turkey on distant healing, helping people with pain management. And it was with cancer patients, and they were trying to work out whether distant Reiki actually helps. It was a controlled study done on anxiety and fatigue. It's actually on my website. I'm reading it as I'm telling you about it. And they received Reiki, one session each night for 30 minutes. They received 5 distant Reiki sessions. And then they did a face-to-face interview to see how they felt. And they measured their response to pain, anxiety, and fatigue. And results showed that Reiki decreased pain, anxiety, and fatigue in these oncology patients. So this is actually an actual trial study that was done on distant Reiki, which is quite interesting. This is in Turkey. So yeah, but in terms of the Earth's energy field, yes, I think there's a guy by the name of Dr. Dawson Church, and he talks a lot about the heart-brain coherence, and he was saying that because the Earth is one big magnet and the Earth's field around it, they said they've been able to measure the frequencies of the energy, and it matches to the frequencies of the brain-heart coherence waves when they've measured it. So I guess if we're able to raise our vibrations, and this is the beauty about Reiki, Reiki has its own frequency. So when we tap into Reiki, we're tapping into that frequency. And I think that's how I see it working. So we're tapping into the frequency of the universe, we're tapping into the Reiki frequency, and that is sending that healing energy, whether it's hands-on, whether it's distant. So yeah, kind of exactly
yeah,
same as a deep meditation. Yeah.
it's funny because as soon as science started going into some of the details of some of this stuff, once we discovered the biomagnetic fields, it was like, okay, well, the Earth has a magnetic field, so would you be able to transfer energy throughout that? And
Yeah.
so, in terms of like the existence of the biofield, a lot of people question it, but it is there. Um,
Yeah.
but then it comes the question: is there this spiritual channel um, of a field? And I think that kind of comes down to like as above, so below. And I just think that right now one of the most crucial ways to heal is distance healing. And
Mm.
so I
Yeah.
think the more we can educate people on the biofield and how it works is going to be key in developing our understanding and a new age of healing.
Yep.
But so that being
Yeah.
said, speaking of a new age of healing, I wanted to talk about crystals and your experience with crystals.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I love crystals, not just because they're pretty and lovely, and I've got a whole range of colors and around my house, but obviously every crystal has its own frequency. Every crystal, whether it's clear quartz, and every crystal, based on its frequency and its properties, connects to has been recommended to use for different chakra points. So whether it's because of the color that gets attracted to those chakra points, or what those crystal properties and frequency entail that help with the particular area in the chakra. So I use crystals for myself when I do distant sessions. I use crystals for giving extra energy to a particular situation, to clearing any obstacles or just raising the vibration. And I was using crystals in Reiki hands-on sessions. Never in the first session. If a client comes and they've never had Reiki before, I keep it very vanilla. I wouldn't even draw all the, necessarily all the symbols. We, try and heal with grace and ease, so nice and gently. And then slowly after a while, we kind of, as we're peeling layers away, then we start introducing other symbols or crystals or whatever, especially if it's a common blocked area. I kind of think, okay, I can put some crystal there and they can help clear it a little bit more as well. So I can either put the crystal physically on the body, so I just have tumble stones depending on the area, or near them in the room. So I've got crystals in the room, and I use crystals also for the attunement. So I have my apophyllite and selenite and rose quartz, and my go-to for my attunements when I teach. And they give you extra love and support. And as you know, we're part of Reiki. We're also trained and taught how to imbue the crystals with the Reiki symbols to help with the healing process. However, I did get caught out once using Reiki on a client, and it was just lapis. It was just wasn't a really heavy stone. It's just a tumble stone, and I placed it on the person's throat chakra, and instantly they felt a cold burning sensation, and they were like, got to get this off. So I removed the stone and they still felt it. And it was a really deep, intense healing. So we had to do a lot of Reiki to help clear that area. Now, I guess what that taught me was that sometimes the crystals can be so powerful that they're healing at such a deep level and they're really drawing it out, that maybe the person is not ready for that type of intense healing. Because if they're coming back out of it and they're feeling more anxiety, more stress because this stuff is just coming up to the surface, it may be too much for them to handle. So now I'm very careful with crystals, I will be honest, and I trust the Reiki energy because I know it's always with grace and ease. And I always say that in the Reiki healing, please clear with grace and ease, because not everybody wants to have a big wham in the face, deal with your issues and problems. And so the crystal really was bringing up a lot of stuff that was too much for them to handle. So I'm super careful now. Clear quartz is lovely. It's supposed to balance out all the chakras and be very, nurturing. So I still have crystals in the room and I might put it next to them, but I'm very wary about putting crystals on their physical body as well. So that has been my experience with crystals. I do put it in the water. I will be honest, I put my crystals, I put the Reiki energy in there and I put them into my drinking water, and then I Reiki my water bottle. So it's Reiki all day long. But I just think we have to be cautious when we're using crystals on people, and definitely wouldn't be mucking around with crystals when people have never had that experience before, when they're really bringing things up. It would have to be somebody you know really well that's going through the healing, and do it gently.
And then something you had brought up that I had never heard about before that I'd like to hear a bit about today is Aurasoma.
Oh yes, Aurosomas. Oh, my one addiction. No, it's I got introduced to Aurosomas by my Reiki teacher, and she is amazing. She's been doing this for over 20 years. And so Aurosoma is not, it's like crystals. It's not part of the traditional Reiki. You don't need it. But just like crystals, it has its own frequency. It has its own healing properties. So an Aurasoma is basically like a little bottle of, it's got like, floral essence, crystal properties, and each one has a particular purpose and intention. And it was founded by a lady called Vicky Hall. And when she was younger, she could see auras, and she was a bit of a clairvoyant. And this was back in the day when her father was he used to work with plants and all the rest of it. So he taught her how to identify plants and what the botanical properties were and how to use them for healing. So she trained as a pharmacist, and she would make creams and lotions, and that's kind of how it started. And she'd give it to, she had the clients, and she'd use all her herbs and extracts. But then in her 60s, she got diabetes and she became vision impaired. And then one night she was guided to a workshop, and she started making these bottles, these beautiful Aurasoma equilibrium bottles, which was all about balance. She would say that she was guided, she thinks, by the spirit of her father who had passed. She had no idea what she was doing, and she made all these amazing bottles using the colors of your auras. So the idea of these oils and these bottles is that they tap in to the auric field, and they have their own vibration, and they heal and help heal and clear. So they've got varying colors. They're a beautiful range of colors as well. There's over 100 different varieties of bottles. And they're basically like living energies. And so they energize our bioenergetic and electromagnetic fields surrounding our physical body. So I will use, the original white, which is based on like the clear quartz frequency. And I will use that to clear some space. I will use it for my clients when I'm at the beginning of a Reiki session to clear their auric space and just get rid of anything to open themselves up before I draw symbols and before I get into putting my hands on them. And then I will use the red, which is like your root chakra, to ground them at the end. And that just removes all those, any of the negative energies that has come up. And to clear, again, when I'm doing my sweep, we clear it all and we use it for grounding them at the end. And there's some beautiful ones. I have the rose quartz, which is just the pink, which is great for matters of the heart. We have the yellow, which brings the sunlight in, which is great for your solar plexus. And for people with depression, anxiety, or just feeling really down, it kind of uplifts them and connects to that space. So they're beautiful. And you've got the spiritual rescue, which is an equilibrium bottle, and that can open your third eye and connect you with your higher self and your spiritual self as well. So, but be careful. Once you start and open that Pandora's box, it can get pretty addictive because they're just a beautiful range to work with.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's just so interesting to me, the entire process. I wanted to cover at least a little bit of it during this episode, so thank you for that.
You're
Um,
welcome.
and then the other thing I was curious about was, um, how is Buddhism a part of your experience with Reiki?
So for me, when I first started on this journey of, I guess, discovery, like the rest of us, I looked at a lot of different religions and tried to understand, where it all came from and how it all works. And it did lead me to Buddhism. I think one of the first books I ever read was The Art of Happiness or something. And trying to understand the philosophies behind it, and where our suffering comes from, and which is all about releasing our attachments and fears of the future or the past, and just kind of bring us to our present moment and finding peace in the present moment and love and kindness and joy. And amazingly enough, now, because for me the Buddhism understanding came first, and the meditation and doing all that came first, and then it led me to Reiki. But if we look at the Reiki precepts of just for today, that pretty much brings us back into the present moment. So if we can live the principles of just for today, we release any attachments to past and future, any of those fears, and we really trust and hand it over to the higher self for allowing things to unfold. And we just do what we need to be present today, energetically, being able to hold on to our own power and love and kindness, and not have any attachments to people, places, or things, which is not always easy. But I see a wonderful link between the two, between the Buddhist principles and Reiki, and even looking at, karma, which is just your energy exchange, right? So with Reiki, we do an energy exchange as well, and how your past life may influence, and we see that in our Reiki practices as well.
Yeah, it's always so interesting to hear people's different experience with that. Um, Buddhism was a huge part of my initial breaking into Reiki, and I think everybody has somewhat of a related experience in a way. Like it's hard to avoid like a lot of the areas of wisdom that have been laid out by Buddhism when you're seeking wisdom at all. So I was just curious. But now we're at my favorite part of the episode, which is where I was curious if you could guide us through some breath work.
Absolutely, definitely. So one of the key things I give for my clients as well is one of the important parts of being able to heal and be present is being able to connect with our breath. And that's something that sometimes we take for granted. And it's so important because our breath is pretty much connected to our heart space. And what we find is if we can just become aware of our breath in our everyday life, we will see that balancing our breath also balances our nervous system. It's all connected. So when we start to feel that fear, that anxiety, that stress, we actually shorten our breath. And when we shorten our breath, we're connecting to our sympathetic nervous system. And by doing that, we're ready to fight in a situation where we're on high alert, with the adrenaline's pumping, cortisol's being released. The opposite of that is connecting to our parasympathetic nervous system, which is what Reiki also does. But an easy way to do this for people who are out and about, you can't always stop and do Reiki, but is to come back to your breath. So the first step is just to be aware of it. And if you're taking those shorter breaths, just slowly start to extend your exhale. And you can even do that now, can't you? So if you take a natural breath in, and on the exhale, we're just going to extend it a little bit further. Just go to where it's comfortable. But then on the next natural breath in, see if you can extend your exhale just a little bit further. And we're just going to keep doing that a few more times. Each time, just lengthening that exhale, expanding it a little more each time. And eventually you'll see that naturally your shoulders tend to drop. You exhale more. Everything calms down. Your nervous system finds its equilibrium and balance again. And as we're exhaling all the way down to the base of our spine, all the way to the pit of our stomach, which also helps release any of that anxiety and tension and stress that we feel and we hold in our solar plexus and gut area. So it's a really quick and easy way to just bring us back into the present moment and bring us back into balance. And we've got our